Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I want to talk to you about a game that I have been really surprised by. Somebody recommended to check out Insurgency on Steam. It's for the PC and Mac currently. I think it's about $15. And I wasn't really expecting a lot from it. I checked out a few screenshots, wasn't too impressed with the graphics. It's running on the source engine, which is definitely capable, but you know, small teams have limited production time and resources, so like just spending tons of time on graphics really isn't economical, especially for a small indie game like this. But you'll notice that the screen itself is very limited for the heads-up display. You'll notice a few little markers on the screen showing control points. In the bottom right, it'll show me what fire mode my gun is set to and how many magazines I have. You don't save bullets when you reload. The damage model is insane. One shot headshot with any gun, you're down from any range pretty much. And as far as body shots go, it's 1 to 2 body shots, it seems like, to take people out. They're going for a realistic damage model here. So when you're playing for the counter-insurgents, essentially the US team, and you have an M16A4 on burst fire mode, that 3-shot burst fire is capable of taking down 2 people, essentially. So rather than having to try and recreate real guns that take, multiple shots to take down one person with a 30-round magazine and trying to balance that out, the guns perform in a way that is very, very realistic to the way that they would in real life. The damage model means that one magazine can seriously deal with a lot of enemy threats. You don't have to worry about reloading until you're really up against the wall and you've been in a sustained firefight for some time. You'll see here that when I zoom in with this optic, the surrounding area around the scope is not magnified. Only the scope itself is magnified, which makes a lot of sense, and I've been wanting for more games to take this approach. There are other shooters out there that do this, but I've never seen it done quite like they have in Insurgency, and it looks really cool and very realistic too. You'll notice that when I zoom in, I can even bring the scope larger on screen there. That's actually focusing. So when you hold shift, like sniping in Battlefield 4, the scope will get steadier and you will look in a little bit closer. You can do this with any optic on any gun, and it's very useful for trying to be precise and hit long range targets. And it really does create that sort of realistic situation where you might be scanning around, looking down sights, and then you see a target with a gun in real life, and you sort of take a breath, maybe focus a little bit more, things become clearer that you're looking at, and then you take the shot. And they've replicated that really well in Insurgency. The game supports third-party map design, and this map that I'm playing here isn't one of the better looking maps. You'll see later in this gameplay that there's actually going to be some really good looking levels. It is the source engine, and if you guys remember, Titanfall's being made on the source engine, so the engine's very capable of making some great looking games. And here's one of the maps that actually does look really good and makes the game look a bit more impressive. I'm just liking the starkness of it though. This is definitely a hardcore shooter. It's not as slow paced as I've experienced with some of the other hardcore shooters out there, like Arma or America's Army back in the day. You had some shooters that were very, very slow paced, where somebody would just go prone and just sit in a corner all game long. That does happen a little bit in Insurgency, but there's time limits and there's capture points, which really force people to get out of their comfortable hiding zones and engage the enemies. One of the boldest things that Insurgency has done is to get rid of any sort of kill feed. So when I kill players in here, I don't have any way of knowing if I got the kill. Although I did notice you can bring up a menu and it'll tell you how many kills you have in that round. And that is a way of doing it. But since a lot of walls are not bulletproof in this and you end up shooting through them to try and hit your target, not only are you not going to get hit markers, so you have no idea if you got a hit on the guy, but you won't know if you killed him either. So you basically fire through a wall. If you don't hear him moving, you sort of move around quietly, investigate, and confirm the kill on your own. It's very realistic in that way, and it's really awesome. It totally takes you out of the element that you're playing a game. All of a sudden you feel like you are a soldier moving around in this really hostile environment. And you'll see I'm getting a lot of long-range kills here with just one 3-round burst. That's all it takes. Because the game revolves around smaller tactical engagements, there isn't a ton of background noise. Every now and then you'll hear a helicopter fly overhead, or maybe some long distance explosion or something like that, but it's not excessive, so you can hear what's going around you with great clarity, and you can hear footsteps, people sneaking up, and that's become a huge part of the game. So when you're sneaking around, you can absolutely anticipate running into people or moving into people. There's no mini map, there's no way to bring up a map. Yeah, there's basically, this is it, your heads up display. So you got to learn the maps, and that's the learning curve of this game, I would say. If you're familiar with shooters, it's not going to be too hard getting into it. Obviously, the damage model's probably going to be new for most people, but learning the map is the most important part of getting back into this game and getting good with it. You'll notice that every time I fire the weapon, there's a really cool smoke trail that comes off of the muzzle, which is just all these cool little details that a lot of other games don't seem to have in them, despite a lot of other games having huge production teams and massive attention to detail. It's funny how Insurgency captures some small things that nobody would really think about, but ending up meaning a lot in the long run. Now, without a doubt, Insurgency is rough around the edges, especially if you're used to playing big AAA titles. The animation isn't the greatest for the characters, the player models could definitely be better, the map design could always look a little bit better, but for a small game, a small indie game, they've really captured an element of gameplay that I haven't found in any other shooter. Even some of the shooters that try really hard to be realistic, Insurgency does a great job of allowing you to get into the game quickly, get into some combat, not worry about just like stagnant gameplay, and play with a realistic weapon model, a realistic damage model, engagements that seem to make more sense tactically than you would get from any other shooter. It's sort of like Arma meets Counter-Strike, where you take the fast-pacedness of Counter-Strike, the realistic gunplay of Arma, and then you kind of mix in some of the quickness of the menu and just getting started of Counter-Strike. You don't have to worry about learning like 5 different stances before you can start playing. The controls are very simple, very straightforward. You do also have leaning, which is a nice touch. You'll notice that there's no hipfire crosshair on the screen. You can actually attach a laser sight to your weapon if you would like to try and simulate that hipfire accuracy if that's something that you would like to play with. For the most part, I found it to really not be a problem because I was aiming down sights for 95% of my kills anyway. The game ships with 12 maps, and it has several different game modes that are all kind of basic at first, but they have really cool little twists on them that actually make a big difference. One of them is wave respawning. So the conquest style game mode works very interestingly, where you'll spawn and say your team's 5 guys. Those 5 guys can go and try and capture a point, but if they all die, then you lose the game. Now, 4 of those 5 guys die, and the last one captures the point. Everybody who's dead on your team respawns in as a wave. So you're not respawning in one at a time getting picked off. You push out as a wave and sort of reinforce the map. And I really like the wave respawning and just some of the cool little twists that they put on the game modes. The player customization is very basic, but it also makes a lot of sense. You don't have a huge plethora of weapons to pick from. You've got like an assault rifle, a shorter carbine, then you got like a sniper rifle, and then some interesting little PDWs, but that's it. You just kind of have one for each category for each team, and it makes sense. It makes you feel like, you know, this is the arsenal that was available to this army. You're not running around with all these kind of weird weapons. You can also choose between having body armor, but it's going to slow you down if you start wearing something that can potentially save you from a straight shot. It can make you survive one lucky hit and keep on fighting. But if you want to move faster, then you can certainly forego that. You can also load out your soldier with different things. You know, more gear, more equipment's going to weigh you down. Running with a machine gun will make you slower. And in fact, running around and jumping around makes your soldier tired. Not only will he breathe loudly, which people can hear, but your scope will sway. So say you run to an objective as fast as possible, crouch down, and then try and scan the area. You'll notice your scope is going to sway around a lot more because you're breathing heavily. And it's just the cool little details like this that really makes Insurgency a lot of fun to play. It's just got core mechanics, it sticks to them. If anything you've seen here sounds like it would be fun to you, then you're probably going to enjoy the game. So check it out, it's brand new. Let's try and get this indie title off the ground because I really think it has a lot to offer the FPS community. As always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.